Awesome. So we are live here in our group, Six Figure House Flippers. If you guys remember, if you're watching this on live, comment hashtag live below. If you're watching on the replay, comment hashtag replay. That way Facebook picks this up and everyone can benefit from the great knowledge we're about to share here. So really excited to get into this. I have a special guest here. He's done over 200 flips. That's 200. That's not 20, that's 200, which is just an amazing number, a huge number, massive amount of flips, more than I've done, which is awesome. But he also has a unique perspective, which is why I wanted to bring him on. He's also a realtor. So I want to get into all those details, like, does it help to be a realtor? Does it hurt? Should you do it? All these different things are very important when it comes to this stuff. So without further ado, I want to introduce my guest. We got Chris Bounds. How you doing?
Doing good. How you doing, Victor?
I'm good. Appreciate you hopping on here. You've got like a great perspective and you're super experienced, to say the least, and just excited to get into it. So I am curious, like, were you always in real estate, or like, did you do something before this?
Always, as in my professional career has been real estate related for a long time. I flipped 4 houses in college, did have a 10-year hiatus after that, or not 10-year, 5-year, 5 or 6 years, and then got married. Priorities changed a little bit, and then that's when the majority of my investing career kind of picked back up.
Okay, so but you're back into it, real estate investing, and you've got a lot of cool projects going on that we've talked about in the past. So when it comes to like the realtor thing, like, let's say, because a lot of the people listening here are like beginners, so is that something you'd recommend, like, hey, like, first step, get your realtor's license, or do you think that's like a more advanced thing? I just love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, you do not need a real estate license to succeed. You're not licensed, and
I'm not, no, yeah.
You seem to be doing very well. And then so to kind of fast forward through my beginnings, 2004, 2005, I'm still in college, did 4 deals. I didn't have a license. I utilized the resources available and worked with some pretty sharp people who knew what they're doing. Get through those deals, get paid. Fast forward 2011, got married, still not licensed as an agent. I have a full-time job. I'm a sales agent selling vacations online. And so from 2011 through 2014, I'm not licensed. Now in 2014, somewhere in there, I do finally get licensed. Okay. And it had been something I'd always planned on doing, but this was the kicker. A local, they call him the legend in Houston, because he's literally flipped like 2,000 houses. So you said 200 is amazing. Just add an extra 0, like 2,000. And on top of that, he owns a hard money company, and they've loaned on way more than 2,000. I forget what that number is, but he's got his hands in a lot of deals. And he told me, I'd asked him, this was my strategy going to networking meetings. And I always tell new folks this: if you're going to go to a networking meeting, pick several, go to them consistently throughout the month, every single month, find the host or someone of that you know is successful, and bring one question, just one, because you don't want to bug them, just one question that you'll ask them, and then over 12 months, you'll accumulate a lot of wealth of knowledge. So that's what I did. And I was at the meeting. I asked him, hey, what do you think about getting your real estate license? And he told me, I paraphrased something to the effect of, if you want to be a professional in this business, you need to get a license. It'll never hurt you. It can only add value. So at that point, I just needed to make a decision. Like, do I really want to be a professional in this business? And I did. So I chose to get my license. Now, whether you personally get it, whether you have a business partner or a spouse that gets it instead, all that can be done. So it's not required to be successful, but it can only add value. That's my opinion. That's one of my unofficial mentors' opinion. And, that's kind of how I answer that question.
No, I like the advice as well. Like, when you go to RIAs, like, go to multiple times. I see a lot of people, they show up once, like, oh, it wasn't helpful. But you get a lot of more value, meet more people, like, the more you go and the bigger you build your network. But I want to dive deeper into what you said there. So it can't hurt you. It can only help you. So what are some of the ways, like, it can actually help you?
Well, let's go back to the ways that people think it can hurt you, because that's the
sure.
number one reason why, or not the number one reason. Most people who say, I don't want to get my license because, and that because is, I don't want to disclose. I'm like, okay, well, what do you not want to disclose? Like that you're a real estate agent? Because you would have to do that. Is that bad? Like, because this is what I say. I'm licensed by the state of Texas. I've had a background check. I'm not some guy who took a weekend boot camp and is just trying to tie up your property and steal your equity. I say that. Now, I'm throwing out some landmines to a lot of people that's probably calling them. And I put a little bug in their head. So that's not really an excuse. Now, what really people are talking about is I would have to disclose value. And my response to that is, and of course, defects and all this other stuff is one, for defects, just because you're not licensed, you're not like, you still have to disclose that. Like if you own a property, and so you know this, you have to give a seller's disclosure according to state laws and federal laws to the end buyer. And I had just like a week ago, someone telling me that because they weren't licensed, they didn't have to do that. And I was like, no. Like that's how you get sued. Like not only me as a flipper, I get it from the buyers, from the sellers that I'm buying properties from. I make them fill that out because that's CYA. And then I'm going to take that and I'm going to fill out my own to the end buyer. And then sometimes I'll give them both. I'll give them the copy I got from my buyer and the new one, double CYA. So you have to disclose that. But beyond that, I think that one of the biggest concerns people have is disclosing value. And my argument to that is like, one, like if you really want to be kind of like shady where you are stealing people's equity because they really truly are ignorant and they do not know. Okay. Then yeah, maybe you don't want to be, or most people know anyway. They know their home is worth a lot more than they're selling it to you. They just don't want to do the work. Like they know if they put in 50 grand and replaced all the flooring and got it like from 1960s to 2020 quality, they could sell that, and they know the market's hot. Like anyone who has like got any type of connection with social media or has looked at the newspaper lately, no, the real estate market is hot right now. They know that they'd be able to sell it. They'd be able to sell it quickly. Zillow's telling them, Open Doors telling them. Like 500 wholesalers and investors are reaching out to them. They know this stuff. At the end of the day, they don't care because if they're going to sell it at a discount, it's because they don't want it. And at that point, who's going to be able to get them the best deal? It's not that that's not important, and who they know, like, and trust. So I've always looked at it as just come at a place of value. I've got to disclose anyway. I'll disclose it in a very unique way to make them be very concerned about unlicensed folks that they work with. And I know some very reputable rock star wholesalers. It's just that was my competitive edge. And then in the event that they want close to retail or something just way outside of what me or even an investor that I know would want, I can list it. I can come in not as, hey, I'm trying to buy your house. Hey, let me help you get your house sold. Maybe I buy it. Maybe you sell it as is cash. Maybe you go the traditional route. I don't know. Let's just have a conversation and see what works best for you.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack there. So can we start with, so I work with a lot of beginners here. Can you explain like what a seller disclosure is and like, when you use it? Let's start with that.
Yeah. So every state is going to have their minimum requirements that you have to disclose. But on top of that, there's also known defects. That's just kind of an overarching thing. So if I'm selling you my house, I know that this house had termite problems. Now I fixed it, but I know it's had termite problems. In the state of Texas, I need to tell you that. And if I don't, you buy it, you tear out the walls, you're like, whoa, this is a mess. And it's such a mess. There's no way, like I can see that some of it's been repaired and all that. There's no way they didn't know that. And it cost you money. I mean, I'm not an attorney, but you could probably find an attorney to have a legal standing against me. So I have an obligation, a legal obligation to tell you about known defects of the home. Has it flooded? Has anyone ran a meth lab out of it? Has anyone died on the home? Is there a roof leak that maybe I just kind of patched up, but I know it's there? Is there a plumbing leak behind the wall that I patched up? Those kind of things. I have to tell you. Now, if I don't know it, I'm not. I mean,
fine.
well, maybe. I mean,
Okay.
there are I mean, because you can get sued for anything, but there are attorneys who have they'll go after you for you should have known. It's called willful ignorance, and none of this is legal advice. This is just experience and talking with attorneys. But there is what's called willful ignorance. Like if you're like someone's trying to tell you, and you're like, no, I don't want to know that. I don't want to know that. Don't tell me because then I don't have to disclose it. I mean, that doesn't absolve you of responsibility. But at the end of the day, I have to disclose, and there's state and there's federal things you have to disclose. And if you don't, you put extra risk on yourself. Why do it?
Yeah. Okay. So you have to do that no matter what, whether or not you have a license. So that's totally fine. Then you mentioned disclosed value. I'm actually not familiar with that term. So when you're buying it as a realtor, you have to tell them what it could be worth. How does that work?
Yeah, and this is part of the realtor. It's not necessarily having a real estate license. So the professional organization for a real estate license is called Realtors. So but not having a license, that would be very confused. So a real estate agent, you don't actually have to be a realtor. That's an extra step that gets you access to MLS and all that stuff. So that's part of the code of ethics that realtors have, and it's putting the client first, putting the consumer or their interests first. I just know that just because I tell you the home is worth 350,000, I mean, that doesn't really do much for you if you got to put 70 grand to get there. Like if you want to do that, man, I got some rockstar contractors, this and that, do it. I'll get it listed for you. We'll get the thing sold in a week. Might take you 8 weeks. And on top of that, like, do you have the 75 grand to do that? Do you want to do that? And if you do, like, cool. But if not, and we can move forward today, 205,000 cash, like you're all done.
So I guess then that just leaves the benefit, just like you were saying, like you are able to present, like you have this motivated seller, they want to get rid of the property. Okay, we can either give you a cash offer or we can list it. So like what sort of benefit do you see there? Like how many people do you actually convert to either in terms of actually cash offer, actually like listing it?
Yeah, so you'll find like in a robust market, you'll get more listings. I mean, because people know that, one, competition. So this was another way, like I can't buy every house for 85 cents on the dollar, but I do know there's a lot of people who will. And some people, they'll pay full retail because they don't care what it's worth as long as it rents and gets a certain yield, like hedge funds, like they just don't care. So wholesalers can get out there, lock up properties for 80, 85 cents, maybe even 90 cents on the dollar, and go out and sell it to an end buyer, typically landlords that are okay with that 6%, 8%, 10% yield over a 5, 17-year period. Like they're okay with that. I can't compete with that unless I want to be a wholesaler, which I don't. My kind of like you, I like flipping. We've wholesaled a couple deals here and there, just stuff that we didn't want to flip, but I didn't want to go that way. So I just like, how can I compete with them? And the other way I can compete is I can list it and I can get them more than what the wholesaler can. And on top of that, I'll disclose like, look, this is exactly what the wholesaler is going to do. They're going to do it, but this, and this, and they're going to make 15, 20, 30 grand. And there's nothing, and I'll tell them there's nothing illegal about it. I mean, as long as they're properly explaining what's going on, there's nothing illegal about it. I can do this, and that 30 grand goes in your pocket, not in the wholesaler's pocket. What sounds better to you? Like, and in this type of market, like, it's not like you got to wait 45, 60 days. Like
you really don't.
Yeah. Like you've put homes on the market. You've probably seen motivated seller, like, ugly houses that are on MLS and they go in days too.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, historically, this is where I came to realization of that model. In 2018, I had my lead manager. I said, hey, every deal we made an offer on, I want to, and we didn't buy it. Like we made an offer, they did something else. What happened to it? And we found it was like 130 of them sold retail. They went on MLS.
Mhm.
You've walked these kind of properties where the home isn't trash. It actually looks pretty nice, or just minor things. I mean, they're interested in what you have to say, but they're not motivated per se.
Yeah.
Everyone has a sister, cousin, neighbor that's a realtor. So at the end of the day, like if you can't help them with a cash offer at their ask, then they're just going to list it. So I was like, and then NAR, National Association of Realtors, their statistic is most people list with the first agent that they speak with. Now, people tend to call investors before they talk to realtors. So I'm an investor and a realtor, and I'm in their living room.
Yeah.
You're in their living room, and they're literally telling me, I want to sell my house. I'm not going to sell it for 70% off, but I do want to sell my house. And what I was doing under the old model, what a lot of investors do is they're a one-trick pony. They've got their cash offer, maybe an owner's finance offer, and if that doesn't work, I mean, they don't really do anything else. Maybe they refer it to their friend who's an agent, but at that point, communication's lost, it's cut. And then someone else has to reestablish communication. And if you've tried to do that, you know that is very difficult. I'm in their living room with a hot lead that needs to be closed one way or another. I'm either buying their house or I'm listing their house. We just need to have a very honest conversation about their needs and wants and see how I can best help them. So that's the conversation flow that I have. It's never, can you buy it? It's, well, yeah, I could, but let's just see the best way to get it sold.
I like the perspective where like you're just trying to help them out, and you're not even trying to convince them or manipulate them into something. You're just like, here are the options. Which option would you like to take? And either option they take, you're winning. Like if they want to list it with you, great, you're going to win. If they want to, sell it to you cash, like that's great, you're going to win. You also mentioned something, which is what I've run into as well, where I go and see a lead, I go and see a motivated seller. Okay, it didn't really make sense for me to buy it cash. We're just way too far off. Like their house is in decent condition, but not perfect condition. And then I refer to a realtor. I say, okay, well, a realtor is going to give you a call tomorrow. And the realtor calls, and I've done this maybe 30 or 50 times, like a lot, and nothing, like never, not even one has converted. Not one, ever, never. It's never converted. And just like you said, the communication's honest, cut off, and it's a new person, and they've, forgotten about them, and they, reach out and find somebody else. But I guess how you do it differently is while you're there in person, like you either get a signing agreement for the purchase agreement or a signing listing agreement. How do you think about that sort of sales process?
Yeah, so you actually have to back up before that. So the way you frame this meeting frames their expectations. If it's only framed that you're going to go out there to buy their house and you don't, but then you pitch them option B, you've actually broken trust. Because they trusted that you were going to buy their house, it was going to work or not. But now you threw out this other option that they had no idea about. It was never in their thought process. Now, depending on their personality type and all that, especially if they're analytical, this is a whole new set of calculations. They're going to think about it, which think about it means, nice to see you. They're not going to talk to you again. And then the same thing like you said before, when actually, that's the same thing with referring it to another realtor. You just added another piece to the equation. So I don't frame the conversation that way. It's I let them know up front, hey, Victor, I'm gonna come out your house tomorrow at 3:00. We'll just run over some options and see what the best way is to get your house sold. Maybe it is an as-is cash offer. Maybe it's traditional listing, and there actually could be a couple other options that we find actually work better. But if we were to find a good solution that works for you, what does that next step look like? And then you're getting them to verbally commit at that point to, well, I mean, I would like to move forward with a contract, or I got to talk to my sister and all that stuff. But at least frames the conversation, not that I'm going to buy it. It's we're going to unpack some options, then we'll go over those. Now, if you don't truly intend to go over those options, that probably, I mean, that's how I did it. I mean, depending on your actual value propositions and all that, you'll tweak that. Because if you don't want to list it, then don't say that. If you do want to work the referral game because you're not an agent, then change up that type of pitch to include that kind of expectation. But whatever it is, whatever you're going out there to truly do and have all the options, like just they need to be up front. You're setting that expectation, getting some commitments, and then everything else is done at the actual appointment.
So that's interesting. So I didn't know that. So you actually frame it up front, like, hey, we're going to go over your options. So it's not a surprise, like, oh, surprise, I'm a realtor. It's like they kind of know, moving into your different options there.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's super helpful. What about like the numbers of it? If you're comfortable sharing, like, so you did this analysis back in 2018 with your lead manager. Like, what happened after that? You guys started getting more listings. Like what percentage of them turned into listings versus actual cash deals?
Yeah, and we changed our game plan too, because we were buying more rentals too. So around that time, so I don't have from scaling of flipping. I really wish I could, because I've gone back and did the numbers. Well, this will be helpful. Based on the 130, what I did is I went back and said, hey, if we can close 30, because I had no idea at the time what a real estate agent, what the closing ratio for a realtor is. I said, hey, if I'm a horrible realtor and I close 30% of them as listings based on my average price point of the market homes I'm targeting, that was $200,000 in gross commission. So I was just like, okay, that's why I realized, okay, well, I need to pay attention to this, because that's a decent amount of money.
A lot of money. Yeah, there's no way that's a lot of money.
Correct. Good listing agents close around 70 to 80, even some 90% of appointments.
Wow. Okay.
So at scale, I can go back and track that of how it would have worked. Now we changed our position, because me and you've had a conversation about this. Is like, well, do we really want to do this at scale anymore? Or do we actually just want to hold on to more rentals? So that's an end up what we've done. So we've actually done more listings, less flips. So basically we've done rentals or listings, and we did a couple flips during that time period. But if you go look at what realtors are doing, they're closing 70, 80% or so of all their appointments. So you got to figure out how many appointments are you closing from a motivated seller? At the time, it was about 1 in 7 for me. So 1 in 7 actual appointments I went on and closed as an acquisition, which meant 6 out of the 7 I didn't close. Now there's probably 1 or 2 of those where they're just completely tire kickers. So maybe you just add 5. I mean, so 70% of those 5 I should have been able to close as a listing.
It's still crazy numbers. I mean, that's an additional multiple 6 figures just from adding this like other component. And like it
gets better than that though. Yeah, it gets better than that. So this is the realtor game. You get a listing. Every listing should generate like 3 to 5 buyers. So this is what realtors do. The listing is like a sign. It's like a billboard. It's, hey, buyers, come look here. A lot of those buyers will be represented, but not all of them. And those that aren't, you can help them go out and find a house. If you have a team, you let your team members work on them. Or if you're a solo agent, you work with them too. Now, 50 to 60% of those buyers also have a home to sell. See what we're doing here? And
so it just grows.
Correct. And the lifetime value of oh man, I should look this up before we got on, because I was doing the math. It's like the lifetime value. The average wholesale fee, when I was looking that up, and it's probably a little higher now with the market, but it was around 6 to 7 grand, which really is pretty close to what it costs to even get a deal. So most wholesalers aren't really making money. There are a lot of them that are, and I know some really good ones, but I mean, if you're wholesaling on average 6 to 7 grand, you're just not making money. But the ones that are doing 15, 20, 30, that's fine. But the lifetime value of a client for a realtor that in the business over the long term is around 20 grand, 25 grand, because you take them, which you'll get a couple transactions out of them throughout their lifetime, but every client's going to refer a couple folks over to you. And then of course they have a value. So it's that multiplier effect. So what I teach flippers, because mainly flippers, the wholesalers too, but mainly flippers, because you have an extra vested interest, the fact that you're actually putting properties on the market all the time. If you can integrate this in your business, now you don't necessarily probably don't want, and maybe you do, but a lot of flippers probably don't want to be involved in the active traditional realtor game. So you can get agents on your team to work the buyer leads, and you could just work the listing leads, and even get a listing assistant to do a bunch of the work there. But you can totally vertically integrate that where you have a full service solution to all the prospects that come through your door. And this is going to be required to stay competitive. Like, you don't think like Zillow, they know this. Open Door does this. They do it on the back end. Because if you've ever tried to put one of your deals through Open Door through their platform and you didn't take an offer, you might have, depending on your market, you might have gotten a call from a realtor a couple of weeks later. They're very slow at it, but they'll catch up. It's all affiliate services. That's why Zillow has mortgage. That's why they have insurance. That's why they have closing and title. It's affiliate services, and they do that because as competition rises, margins shrink. It requires a vertical integration to be able to keep your margins at scale. And I think that's the best way you can grow your business in a healthy way without just trying to scale only using the marketing arm, meaning pour money on marketing.
Yeah, no, I like it, especially now because it is tighter to get deals. Like, deals are still out there, don't get me wrong, but it helps to have this other arm, this other component. You can still do stuff. You're not wasting money on marketing. And that pretty much pays for your marketing. Like, if you're able to turn these leads into listings, then that just pays for your marketing. And it's like, okay, well, free marketing. How many deals do you want to do if your marketing's free?
And it's all exposure too. It's branding exposure. So if you're doing this under one brand, branding exposure, which helps with referrals, both on the retail and the motivated seller side. And then private lenders, like the bigger your name you have, like it's going to get easier to get private lenders, and possibly even at better rates and better terms. So, and then team members, when you're bringing on, sales agents or other realtors on the team. So there's a multiplier effect as you grow. It's just, if you're growing on one, and this is another thing that happened in 2018, because competition was getting even more heated in Houston. Like, we found that we were largely a one-trick pony. We had some rentals, but they were fairly insignificant at the time. And when we weren't making as much as we needed to on flipping, like, that really hurt NOI. So that's why we started diversifying and adding the retail, adding the Airbnb, and then buying more rentals. And then we joined EXP. And so we had multiple legs on our stool to maintain financially healthy.
I think that's a good transition here, because I know you're really into multifamily a lot recently. Can you kind of tell us about that, and like what prompted you guys to transition to that and the benefits you've seen there?
Yeah, so in 2018, we added the retail component on. We went on the Airbnb, we joined EXP, and we're pushing along. But as we started going, and this is maybe another 6-9 months as we're pushing along, we realized, like, we've got this huge machine. Now, our beginning goals, real estate from the very beginning, for me, for my wife, has always been build wealth and build passive income. So we flipped, I don't know, maybe 170 properties at that point, and realized, like, there's no end. Like, yeah, we're making money, but we can never turn it off, because then we lose money. Because, like, you've got marketing pumped into it, you've got assistants and operational costs and all this stuff. So we can never turn it off, which means we have to keep going. And then you have a choice: stay small, make money, very active, very busy, scale, and try to bust out of the gravitational pull of that middle zone. I forget that one of the books I've read, Simple Numbers, I think, it could have been Profit First, where it talks about basically here's where you are now, small business, doing well, probably the fattest margin you'll ever have. But when you try to scale, there's this next level, and you really want to get up here. But this next little level here, it's the death zone. The reason is, and you will die here if you don't break out. So in here, it requires extra capital cost in marketing and resources and labor. And so for a time, you're going to be making much less money and maybe even losing money. But if you break out of it, things are great. Now you can start maybe hiring a COO to pull out. And I know people who've done this. We personally had tried doing that within the flipping business, and every time we just got that resistance. So we kept pulling back, and we're like, do we really even want to do that? And the answer was no. So we started making small adjustments to get lean operationally, hold more rentals. 2019, leaner, started hold more rentals. And then 2020, COVID came, and it was like an opportunity for us. Like, well, I mean, we have to shut down anyway because they're shutting everything down. Let's just like I'll take a hatchet to the final little things we had, give us a good opportunity to reset. So we did that, bought a couple more rentals that year. And then when we realized like, hey, look, now that we actually have this opportunity, where can we get the biggest benefit to growing wealth and growing passive income? And for us, it wasn't single family, because in 2016, if we would have done that, we'd have been able to buy a lot more, but I'm having to work harder because of competition. So I was like, if we have to work so hard for a home, I just wanted to have more than one door. So that's ultimately what we realized, like, hey, look, we know a lot of people who are doing very well in the multifamily game. We've stayed in touch with them. I've been watching their business over the past couple of years. Let's have some other conversations. We got a great opportunity in Daytona Beach, Florida, probably not too far from you, where it was a $42 million, 384 unit Class B project that we were able to I'm a small GP in that deal, but it was a good opportunity to put our investors' money to work and get in that project. And now we're in the process of scaling that side of it.
Amazing. Really cool. So I mean, that's why I always recommend for beginners, like, get into flipping, like get your feet wet, start to accumulate capital. Okay, now you have capital, then you can put that as a down payment into like a single family rental, like a multifamily rental.
Yeah.
But it just, skyrockets you to be able to buy cash flow, buy infinite cash flow. Like as many flips as you do, throw that into passive investments. And that's pretty powerful.
So this will be fun too. So this is a thought process I had while going through all of that, like the 2018 to 2019, and I came up with this slow flip strategy. So, okay. I mean, a lot of people say like flip 3 houses, flip 5 houses, hold one. You can do that. And then that's, especially if you need the money, flipping and wholesaling or commissions, like you just have to do it. You got to eat, or you got to have a W-2 job. So you keep doing that, but we realize like most of if you take a 5 or 7 year period of holding a rental, for us, like let's say this year, we sold one. Actually, we sold 2 this year. One, we netted around 80 grand, and the other one around 65 grand. And both of those we held less than 4 years. So around the 5 to 7 year mark, it's roughly the way we were buying them, appreciation and all this stuff. It was around 100 grand gross profit. So say that works. That means if you can buy one today, in 5 years, you'll have 100 grand gross profit. So just start buying one now. Next year, buy another one. Next year, buy another one, and then keep flipping and wholesaling and working your job. That way, once you get to the 5 year mark, now you could technically sell one a year, and you got an extra 100 grand, and you could use that money to go out and not buy one, but buy 2. So that way you're exponentially growing your portfolio. So it's kind of like the BRRRR strategy, I call it the slow flip strategy, because you are selling them at some point, but you're using the proceeds to reinvest and exponentially grow your capital. I've got a cool presentation on that, and it's a plan of action, and it lays it out, and it shows you like how quickly it is to build a $1 million rental portfolio. It doesn't take as many properties as you would think.
That's really cool. It's definitely slow, right? Because it's 5 years, but I mean, 5 years is going to pass anyway, so you might as well have that extra rental or that you can sell in 5 years.
Yeah. Who wouldn't want a rental one right now that they could sell? They bought 5 years ago that would make them an extra 100 grand.
Should I bought one 5 years ago? That would have been 2016. Yeah, that would have been pretty nice. Pretty nice, especially now with where the prices are and the market's going. Well, any reason, if it's too personal, you don't have to share, but any reason you decide to sell those 2 rentals, or was it for this strategy?
One, we never intended to hold it anyway. We bought it because we got a killer deal. It was a flood house, an investor got foreclosed on. It was a Harvey, so that huge flood incident in Houston. We bought it for 120. It was fully remodeled. We just needed to put an AC unit in it and do like a couple of small things, but otherwise fully remodeled, 120,000, 3,000 square feet. Now, so we underwrote this property that it was worth 190 at the time. So we had plenty of spread there. We knew we could rent it for about $2,000 a month, which we did. So from a cash flow perspective, even after flood insurance and all that stuff, like it was a great deal. If that house hadn't flooded, it would have been worth well over 300. Well, COVID happened and the market just goes crazy. And the tenant that we had in there, like, she was a big pain in the butt. So we're like, one, like we're definitely getting her out. And so if we're getting her out and the market's going crazy, hey, what do comps look like? And I looked up comps, like it was worth 190 when I bought it. Well, now one of the neighbors got like, I think it was around 300 for his, and his flooded too. And so we're like, hey, if we can get anywhere near that, we ended up getting 255. Not bad. I tried to get more, but not bad. In 1 year, basically like 14 months, 15 months or so. So that's that one. The other one was a duplex. Not similar, but it was another one that it from a value standpoint, it was really worth nothing to us because it was in a flood zone, even though it didn't flood. It was in a really bad area. As far as it was just very run down. But it was a duplex that had been built by the previous owner, and that thing was cash flowing like crazy day one. So we bought it based on cash flow for $70,000, and we thought it was probably worth $70,000 at the time. And then, but from a cash flow perspective, post COVID, we're looking at this and we know what people are paying for cash flow. We're like, man, we think we could probably sell this one for around 150. And we did, or it was 150, 160. And that was around a 3-year time period. And then we just took that money and then we bought another rental at the end of December, single family rental. And then actually I did a case study on this one. If we would have flipped it, we would have made $10,000. We're going to hold it 5 years, and in 5 years projected gross profit, $100,000. So
great deal.
Bring me back to that 5-year slow flip.
We got the slow flip. Yeah. We'll have to trademark that for you. Well, that's really cool. It's, just kind of pruning your portfolio, kind of selling off the losers and like the ones you don't want to deal with. So exactly. That's a lot of money. That's really good money. This is really fantastic. As we kind of wrap up here slowly, like any final thoughts, like being a realtor, being a flipper, or any other like final thoughts or like words of wisdom for the folks here?
I mean, if you're going for the realtor thing, I stand by what my mentor, unofficial mentor, what he said. Like, if you want to be a professional long-term in the business, like it doesn't hurt. It's not going to hurt you. So I tell folks, if you're active and you plan on being in the business for extended period of time, just go get your license. Now, if you want to be completely passive and you're investing in like as a limited partner or private lending and stuff like that, I mean, there's probably easier, less painful ways to get access to the data. But again, if you're going to be in the business for any extended period of time, it's not going to hurt you. It's only going to help you. And on top of that, we're seeing more and more states, like especially on the wholesaling side, more and more states come down. Like Oklahoma recently required a license to wholesale. Illinois has done it. Atlanta's come out with recently some extra provisions. They haven't outlawed it, and they haven't required a license yet, but they've come out with some marketing guidelines where they're going to start going after people that are aggressively marketing unsolicited. Philadelphia has come out with some regulations similar to that. So I think more and more of these states, as bad actors get caught and it gets like the wind of politicians, they're going to start requiring a license. So just get ahead of it. From an investment standpoint, especially if you're flipping, wholesaling, doing commissions, continue to do that. If it's working well for you, just find a way to hold a couple properties a year and do that consistently. So that way, whether it's market change, your personal goals or whatever, at some point you can look back and you actually still have something of value, because once you sell a flip or a wholesale or commission, like the money's gone. I mean, money's not gone, but you're not going to earn any more money off that deal. You only build wealth through owning assets. So flip, hold, flip, hold, or find a strategy that, or a formula that works for you. Because at the end of 10 years, you'll be more happy with the ones that you held than, like, 200 flips sounds cool. I'd be much happier if I said I kept 30 of them. I didn't.
Interesting. Okay. See what? Yeah.
Well, from an equity standpoint, it'd be much further
Yeah.
off. But yeah, I mean, we have, I don't know, roughly 9 doors or so now, plus the it's around 390 something with a multifamily.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, that's what I've shifted to, and that's what I teach my students as well. Like, do flips, that's great, but also do rentals. So I'm buying 2 this week, and that's great. One's a rental, one's a flip,
Sweet.
So I just like to break it out that way.
Yeah,
I don't know if for me it's like a ratio.
You'll get tons of capital, like tax benefits from that too.
Yeah, exactly.
So flipping and wholesaling and all that stuff, that's very active income. So if you have more depreciation through rental properties, then that'll flow through and help eat up some of your income. Get with a smart CPA. Definitely check with your CPA about getting real estate professional status, because that has like really good benefits, and you have to be active in the real estate market, and the thing is like over 750 hours a year to get that. But if you can, it has tons of net financial benefits to your tax return.
That's good enough. Awesome. Cool. Well, I appreciate you hopping on here, Chris. You have a great story. You have a great perspective, like being a realtor and also being a flipper. Now you're like a multifamily, like a landlord, so to speak. How, if folks are like interested in you and what you do, like how can they get a hold of you? Like, what's the best way to reach out?
Yeah, I'm always all over social media. My website, investedagents.com, and it has all my socials. And then there's a button on there that says community. So we have a Facebook community where we network with other folks that want to build wealth and passive income. Do a lot of events and webinars, virtual, and if you're in Houston, a lot of in-person stuff too. And yeah, happy to connect.
Awesome. And I just dropped that down below. It's going to be in the show notes. It's going to be in the comments. So feel free to check it out there, investedagents.com. Well, very cool. Appreciate it, Chris. Yeah, thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. I love all your content before and afters. It's fun to watch the process, and I'm sure you thoroughly enjoy that part of at least that part of the process. And I like seeing it still too.
I do like to see the transformation. Like, okay, painting got done, now it looks a little bit nicer. Flooring got done, looks a little bit nicer. And then you look at like the before and after pictures. Like, is this even the same house? Like, it is cool to see that transformation. I'm always surprised. That's the other thing. I thought after as many as I've done, it'd be like, oh yeah, okay. But it's like, whoa, this is nice.
Yeah, and definitely document as much as you can, because you never know what that'll lead to, whether it's video, pictures, all the above, like text and all that, because those tell stories later on. And you just never know what that story is that you're going to want to tell. But when you have the media, or at least the text and all that, it'll help you tell that story. So we did pretty well with that, at least from a picture standpoint. I wish we did more video. But yeah,
it's cool to see the before, during, and after. Yeah, I need to work on that a little bit better. But yeah, cool. We'll appreciate it for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you.